nature as either instrumental or intrinsic. What we experience are complex webs of intersecting values, all right? All of which are partly instrumental and partly non-instrumental. So instead of a linear sequence going from instrumental, instrumental, instrumental to, all these different kinds of instrumental, right? In recreation, aesthetic, more than economic, right? These are all instrumental values. And then finally, intrinsic values are the true reasons why we should. Well, the pragmatists say all instrumental values, if you want to accept this distinction, then all instrumental values are simultaneously intrinsic values and vice versa. And, right? In reality, we recognize value in salmon ecosystems for economic reasons and for more than economic reasons. And these different reasons are all interconnected with each other. Okay? So rather than having a linear sequence of different kinds of value, we have a web of values. All right? And the way that one set of values, like the values of salmon ecosystems, is defended for a pragmatist is by explaining the relationship between that set of values and all the other values that humans hold. Okay? So, just about out of time, but wrapping things up with our last human example. All right? Remember the last human example? Is there anything morally objectionable about the last human's decision to destroy the last redwood forest? The classical anthropocentric view would generate the answer no. Okay? Right? The decision is not morally objectionable because only humans are morally considerable. All right? You need a valuer for there to be value. There are no more valuers left, so there is no value, and therefore the claim this is morally wrong is just ridiculous, unintelligible, right? And perhaps that's what any kind of anthropocentrism commits us to, right? We can't explain why we might be morally disgusted by the last human's decision to destroy the redwood forest, right? All right? Along comes Rawls and says, I can answer that question really, really easily, and I can say yes to that question. Yes, it's morally wrong. It's totally wrong, completely wrong, right? Because redwood forests are intrinsically valuable, all right? Now, an environmental pragmatist like Norton will come along and say, hey, I can also answer the question yes, but I don't need to make the questionable metaphysical commitments that Rolston makes that are embedded in his reliance on the concept of intrinsic value. I don't need to make those kinds of questionable metaphysical commitments. I can still answer the question yes, right? So I don't have to, I'm not just this onerous, despicable person like up here, right? But I also don't have to make these questionable metaphysical commitments, right? And the reason I can do that is by relying on my valuable distinction, and by this right? The best possible universe is the one in which as many as possible moral claims are being met, are satisfied, right? And so that means those moral claims which are inconsistent, incompatible, opposed to a bunch of other moral claims, they get tossed aside, right? They get cut out. And in the end, we end up with a bunch of moral claims, right? I think Norton's weak anthropocentric answer is one way of answering, of defending this yes answer. But we could also say that, yes, there are moral claims made by by the redwood trees themselves, right? The redwood trees themselves are making moral claims, and that might be compatible with James's view, with the classical pragmatist view. The redwood trees themselves are making moral claims, and the genetic lineages of the redwood, of all the species that live in the redwood forest that you are exterminating by doing this, right, they're also making moral claims, right? And so even though the human, we no longer have moral obligations to humans, because all the humans are gone, they're not making any more claims, right? But these other entities, including the genetic lineages, are making moral claims. And so we the last human, right, still has obligations to them, right? That's another way of saying yes to this question, right? Then, of course, the virtue ethicist, their answer is just, we've already said that, that's just in poor taste, right? You can't do that and consider yourself an excellent person. Even if you're only going to be alive for another few hours, you can't commit this kind of destructive act, right? You know, even just spray painting graffiti on the Grand Canyon would be inconsistent, right? And anyway, so I've run out of time. I'm right on time this time, so go home for the weekend, and we'll start a new phase of our journey with Thomas Birch. And you'll summarize the whole Birch essay, okay? For Thursday, for a week from today. What happened?
I picked it up, but I don't think it's.
Well, let's see here. I can tell you whether I graded it or not.
Okay.
No, I don't know how.
Because I gave it to you on.
Really? Oh, maybe I didn't get to the end of them or something. Oh, I'm sorry. No, but you're in the beginning, so Christy. Yeah, I didn't grade that either. I don't know what's going on. Yes.
Earlier in the term, I asked you if I could turn in next Thursday's summary early because I'm going to be gone for a wedding. On Tuesday, would you like me to turn it in paper format or do you want me to email it to you?
You can just email it to me, I'll print it out.
That's fine. Thank you.
Yeah, sure, man.
Okay, so I just noticed this thing on the table also, which is not graded.
Oh, I'm sorry. What's wrong with me?
That's my intention. Yeah, so I mean, you set it down here, but it didn't grade it.
You know what? I think somehow your guys' essay, I had them in the stack. Anyway, all right. But I'll put them right on top of each other.
I gave you another thing.
I know you're all caught up, so.
I think
I'll-
I still have to do the one that was supposed to be turned in today. But
A summary of Ralston. Yeah. It's probably the easiest one of all to do. So that won't take you very long.
wait, it's Rolston, it's not,
I mean, it's hard reading, but you know his argument now.
oh yeah, no, totally. Wait, so it's Rolston, it's not,
All I want you to summarize is Ralston. Yep. Ralston's another one of these peaks, you know, he's this high point.
yeah, no, but what about, Holmes, duties to endangered species?
That's Holmes Ralston.
Oh,
That's his first name.
Oops.
His name is Holmes
Okay.
Ralston III.
Oops.
His dad and his grandpa had the same exact name, Holmes Ralston Sr., Holmes Ralston Jr., and then Holmes Ralston III.
Also, I have a question about your statement on the last human thing. It's like, because it sounds like the argument starts to become non-anthropocentric utilitarianism when you're talking about that last guy, because it's what the right decision.
Norton, well, that makes sense.
Well, because
we can't call it,
the pragmatist thing starts to go into the territory of like, what is most what is least infringing on the most claims for the most claimants. So it's not anthropocentric utilitarianism because it's like benefits the most, you know, kind of idea. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, well, I hesitate when you talk about because utilitarianism has this pain-pleasure calculus, right?
But so it's without that though.
A tree may experience pain. I think actually they do. When you cut off their limbs, they do experience pain. But we don't have any way of measuring that. We don't know that they do. I don't know. How would you learn that a tree experiences pain? How would you prove that? You know.
No,
but,
for sure.
So I would steer you more toward just replace the word utilitarianism with the word consequentialism.
Okay.
Or even if you want to be more Leopoldian about it, which you have to be really, just use the term holistic consequentialism.
Yeah.
Which is
Okay.
holistic.
So, but at the same time, though, it's like, you know, what if just the sheer existence of this type of fly means that like some other species is going to go extinct, though, and you're using the pragmatist argument, then you would have to say, well, there's more claimants on this side, so therefore we have to get rid of the species of fly.
Well, I've already complicated.
But it doesn't have obligation.
How do you like my little effort to include genetic lineage and ecosystem in the list of claimants?
Oh, okay.
That's what I'm trying to do.
Yeah,
That's how I'm trying to rescue fragments of obligations to ecological wholes,
Okay.
by redescribing them as claimants.
Yeah.
And,
No, I
that-
agree.
and if you go to John Dewey's description of the generic features of experience, then it's not that much of a stretch to say that a species over long billions of years of evolutionary history is doing something like experience.
So
Because it's responding to challenges,
Yeah.
you know?
But so would you consider that a claim then?
I want to insist that yes, and that's how I can allow for intrinsic value, and that's how I can be a full-fledged northern anthropocentrist, not just a weak anthro like Norton.
Yeah.
You see what I mean?
Okay.
You follow?
Yeah. Alright, have a good one.
I don't like that weak anthro stuff.
Yeah.
I'd rather go with Rolston than that.
Yeah.